I hate to be the one to judge the NBA off one game or two days, but I want to let like all the teams play. I want to say, well, let the NBA players play, and then we make our decision on the season. I said that's fair. I said let's evaluate what's going on here, and then we'll make our suggestion about the NBA. So I said, okay, let's look at the league. Let's look at what took place, and go from there. All we saw was guys who are not in shape, guys who didn't want to play. Now, when I looked up and saw what was going on with all of these athletes, all these very young players, this is probably the youngest looking NBA I've seen in a long time, where I think it's a lot of 26, 23, 24-year-olds that are starting. Not a lot of real veterans out there, except for like the Bulls or something. But everybody else is looking pretty much like, okay, let's get younger here. Let's try to get things more into perspective. Now, when we looked around the NBA, we saw a lot of different, events happening. For instance, we saw Memphis still look the same. We saw Denver still look the same. What was shocking was Philly doesn't look the same. I think Joel is for real. I think that's a real basketball player. I think he was just unfortunate to have all those injuries, but he looked like somebody that could bring Philly back into the fold. People don't understand. Philadelphia is a basketball city. It is not a baseball city. It is not a football city. It is a basketball city. The city of brotherly love, the Dr. J. This is the 76ers. Do you understand that is a basketball town? Completely, all the way around basketball town. So when they get going, they got the Flyers and all that, but no. The 76ers run Philadelphia. And when people are migrating to teams now because the Sixers was garbage for a while, they got to start to pick back up. They need to go get Pat Croce back. Go get him. But I think now they're in the right direction. I don't know if Simmons is the answer. I just don't think he's NBA ready right now. I think it's too much hype into him. He's not going to be like LeBron James. He's a bit weak. And the nicest term to put it, he's physically not there. But most players of his magnitude, they normally strengthen up once they get into the league and get tougher. But I like the way the Lakers look with the spacing that they're doing, the extra pass, something they couldn't do with Kobe Bryant, and that was understandable. They will win more games this year than they did last year, and I could tell that early on. Phoenix is still terrible. What else I tell you? Detroit looked pathetic, absolutely pathetic, and it's not that Toronto was great, because they weren't. They just looked great in spots. And then Detroit played so bad. I mean, defensively, they were terrible. And this is what I mean. Drummond didn't even play good. This is what I mean about getting out of shape and using the season to get into shape. Boston looked bad, even though they won. A lot of teams look bad and won. OKC looked bad, and they won. The Miami Heat won, and they look like the Miami Heat, but they should have beaten Orlando, I think, more than what they won by. But OKC didn't look good at all. I mean, of course, Westbrook's going to get 30 and 12 and all this stuff, but OKC doesn't look like a team that's going to dominate anybody. But what's missing here? And Indiana went to overtime with Dallas and won. As I told y'all, San Antonio and Indiana, look out for them. But 130 to 121. Boston and the Brooklyn Nets. 122, 117. Okay? You're seeing a lot of high scoring going on in the NBA. Early on. I mean, we saw Cleveland just dominate the Knicks. Why? Because it's the first game of the season. Nobody's really in sync. They basically played one half of basketball. And then you got Carmelo didn't have a great shooting night. The Cavs blew them out in the third quarter because they weren't in shape to play basketball for 4 quarters. That's what happened to the New York Knicks. So will this New York Knicks be a different team going down the road? Absolutely, because guys are getting in shape to play. Guys will be ready to play. Guys on the Knicks are just standing around watching Carmelo post and try to go in there and score a basket. And when his shot isn't dropping, then now the whole team's in disarray because they've been sitting around watching. There's no movement of the ball, which was supposed to improve this year. But it's first game of the season. You're not going to see too much of that. Golden State gets routed. Why? Because of what I told you earlier. Defense. You're going to see Portland and Utah. Utah looks better than Portland to me. But Portland beat them. Why? Because defense. Look, this year a lot of things are going to be exposed. The big man is going to count for something this year in the NBA. You're going to see guys like Mastoff. You'll see why they got $60 million contracts. Because they're valuable pieces now. In a game that's controlled by guards, look at the Chicago Bulls. I'm like, that's just a team of guards to me. That is a team of guards. So you got a whole team of guards just sitting around. Nobody's really doing anything. And we'll see what happens tonight. Because they're going to play Boston. And this is their first game of the season. Then you got Atlanta playing Washington. And then we'll tackle that later on. But I just wanted to get these first 2 games out of the way. I mean, the first 2 days of basketball, which really is 1 day of basketball. So they can get this out of the way. But we'll know what everybody looks like then. Because everybody would have played by today. So we'll see what the Clippers look like. We'll get to see what Atlanta looks like and the Bulls, who were the only 3 teams left. The scheduling was terrible. You know, because of the Chicago Cubs success, they wanted to try to put the Bulls on a Thursday night where people can watch it and not worry about the Chicago Cubs. You know, they don't want to intervene with what's going on with the World Series. But look, this is going to happen. It's the NBA. You shouldn't have had 3 games on Wednesday on World Series night. You know, and I mean on Tuesday, you know, to open the World Series, you put 3 games on, including LeBron James. Then you go ahead and open up the season the next day, really, and let everybody play. Again, on World Series night. Then tonight, you got like 4 games. When you should have opened tonight, on Wednesday, and then today, when there's no games. You know, I mean, that's just me thinking. I'm sorry. But you tell me, what do you think about this league? It's the same. To me, this is going to grow old. They have to change. This is just the first 2 games, so it's very hard to judge it. But coming out the box, I'm seeing a lot of turnovers. I'm seeing a lot of lazy play because guys are not in shape when they've had basketball camps. They've had everything else to get themselves in shape for basketball. You know you're finna play basketball. You know this is the season, right? You know everybody's waiting to hear what you got to say or do on the court. It's time to work. And we're not seeing that. What Kevin Durant say? Oh, that loss was a slap in the face? Oh, really? Of course it's a slap in the face. You going over to Golden State Warriors, to them was a slap in the face. To the NBA, they want to see an egg on your face. They're going to hold you responsible, not Steph Curry. He didn't deferred all the attention go to you. You're the additional piece that came to the team. They let Bogues go, which was a huge loss, defensively. They won the Golden State Warriors won the title defensively. They were a great defensive team as far as team defense. That's how they won the NBA Finals. They lost that in that last playoff series against Cleveland. They lost that defensive prowess with injuries, with crazy suspensions, and the NBA got what they wanted. Cleveland to win. LeBron James gets another ring. But anybody could score in this league, as you can see. So to compare somebody to like Jordan and all of these guys, it's not even fair. The league is designed for you to get 30. Like I told y'all 1,000 times, Michael Jordan said he could come back and average 30 points a game. It's easy. In this system. People say, how could he? Like he explained to you, that's 4 shots a quarter for him. He could easily, if he hit 4 shots a quarter, that's 8, 8, 8, and 8. That is 32. If he scored 8 points a quarter, you know how easy it is for Michael Jordan to score 8 points in a quarter? 8? He could average 30 points a game. So it's not about that. It's not even impressive to do that. It's can you win? You saw a guy score 50 points and lose yesterday for the Pelicans, which is a terrible name for New Orleans. They need to find a way to get their original name back to Jazz, like the Hornets did. See, that's what happens when teams move around for financial reasons. They want to go to other towns, like the Minneapolis Lakers. They move to L.A. and they keep the name the Lakers. It doesn't make any sense. There are no lakes in L.A. All the lakes are in Minnesota. So that's what the name Lakers stands for. The lakes. The Great Lakes in Minnesota. You see? None of these things make sense. The New Orleans Jazz. They moved to Utah and they keep the name the Jazz. Like people go to Utah and think Jazz? Are you kidding me? We should keep the names home. The Detroit Pistons, it was fitting that they are called the Pistons. Okay? When they were in Fort Wayne, Indiana, they had the automobile manufacturing business was in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The business moved to Detroit, and they took their team with them. The automobile owner owned the Detroit Pistons, so it was naturally that they be called the Pistons. But he didn't just move the team, he moved the automobile company over to Detroit. When Detroit then became known as the Motor City. So the Pistons fit. You didn't need to change because the company that the name originated from went with it. Now the Celtics, that's a Boston tradition. They're not moving. They're not ever changing. They're going to stay right in Boston. Because it would make no sense for anywhere else to be called the Celtics. See, that's one thing about the Irish. They are very content and very loving to stay in a location forever. They be, no, this is my home. Gonna stay right here. Shabrock. Stay, wait a minute, man. You got a mansion right there. You can get that now. Kind of like it right here. Right where I'm at. Yep, me and the McMilk. Yep, we're going to stay right here. You know, we're going to stay here and we're going to work until the job's done. You know, that's just what they like. So that's why they like Boston. The ship landed in Boston and they said, look, I like it right here. I'm not going nowhere. This is our land. So they're not going anywhere. You're going to have to deal with him. But what do y'all think about the first, well, just call it the first day of basketball, because really those 3 days don't count. Just match it all together. What do y'all think so far about this year's NBA?